you're a home buyer, somebody or a young person looking to buy a home, you need a bit of a reset.
There is a possibility on the other side of this that inflation could actually be quite low.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Now, today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers, and the data is in, and today we're going to listen to Barbara Corcoran talk about the residential real estate market. She's going to go into foreign investors, cash buyers. She's going to go over like what's going on in Austin, why are prices going down there, and the fact that she believes that real estate and home prices are going to surge 10% if interest rates go under 6%. But I find that very, very interesting considering real median household income in the United States has been going down since 2019. So my question is well, if prices go up 10%, well, how the heck can people afford it since they are making less money adjusted for inflation than before the home values went up? But that's not all. How can people save for a down payment when the personal savings rate is 3.8%? Quite frankly, most Americans can't even afford to save money. So they're making less money, they're saving less money, and yet people are still going to be purchasing properties like crazy. That's going to hit an end eventually. But let's not forget, you guys, some of the real problems in the housing market is because of Barbara and the fact that she can't stop buying real estate. Now, the share of investor-owned homes in the U.S. remains high in the U.S. in 2023. According to a national data provider, CoreLogic, the sizable U.S. home investor share of ownership seen over the past 2 years held steady going into the summer of 2023. In March of 2023, investors accounted for 27% of single-family home purchases. Now, everyone's like, oh, the institutional investors aren't the problem. Yeah, they are. Everyone's a problem that only wants to make money off of homes. I mean, I get it. I get so much hate when I say that, we need to get people in houses before people invest in SFRs. I get so much hate. Chad, you're ruining my dreams. You're socialist. Blah, blah. Like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying there's a greed and corruption problem. Like, pay attention to what I'm saying. We need to help the people on the bottom. It's not fair that you have 200 houses and this other family over here doesn't have any. In my opinion, it's not fair. They just got ransacked by the federal government. I don't think that's fair, but I know you do because you got ahead and you own 100 houses. It is what it is. Let me move on. But before I do, let me just remind everyone that the houses people are buying is the first-time home buyer affordable houses, and that is exploding. We have never had as much investors purchasing affordable houses than we do now. Investors bought 26% of the country's most affordable housing in the fourth quarter. That is the highest share on record. And so I don't have a lot of sympathy for these people that are investing in hundreds and hundreds of SFRs. By all means, multi-unit, multi-family, do your thing there. Or if you're rehabbing in Detroit or somewhere like that and renting, fine, I get it. But there's more problems with these institutional investors. A lot of these new investors, they don't even know what they're doing. They're purchasing because they're converting to STRs, which is another problem. But that's a video for another day. And STR is short-term rental. Regardless, let's listen to Barbara and see what she has to say about real estate.
Little bit about where you see real estate going. There was this realtor's decision that supposedly, they're in hot water. Their days are numbered.
We're going to start with the commission
is gone. What does that mean? I wanted to get your take on that.
There's a lot of confusion surrounding the topic. The most confusion is that now commissions are negotiable. They've always been negotiable. That hasn't changed. But what has changed is if you're a buyer in the marketplace and you want to hire a broker to help you find a house, and people certainly need the help to find a house, you will get everything in writing, what you're being offered, what services are given, and exactly what they'll cost. That's a good change. I think that was needed for clarity, even though most brokers were doing that anyway. But the confusing part is sellers and buyers brokers are not allowed to look up commissions anymore on their MLS. There's no status as to whether I'll pay you as a broker, I won't pay you as a broker. So it's a guessing game. Right now, there's no communication other than the MLS to let people know that, brokers in particular. So as a result,
the seller certainly is going to want you bring it down, right? The 6% thing, I mean,
not necessarily. Really? Most sellers are smart enough to know that listing agents could be negotiated slightly, not so much because there's usually a going norm in the area. But very importantly, sellers recognize that buyer brokers bring in their buyers, and they don't like to mess with that. They know the more buyers that come in, the higher the price they'll get. So I don't see that as going to be changing at all. The only thing is, how is that going to be communicated?
Yep.
And it's the communication that has caused the chaos in the marketplace.
I think she nailed that on the head. I mean, sellers are just going to pocket that money for themselves. They're not going to pass that on to the buyers if they don't have to. And I think, again, you guys, you've heard me say this before, but I think, first of all, it's not even a law. It's just a proposal. There's no settlement. It's just a proposal. I think it falls short. I think it falls extremely short. All they're doing is limiting the communication. You could still charge 10% to sell a house. So in my mind, you need to cap it and make a rule. You can't go over this amount. But again, all they've done is they've just put it to where you can't communicate about it. But I'm going to tell you guys, as a buyer's agent, I've recently got back into the real estate. The last 2 transactions that I've had, I have waived my commission over $5,000, and I've given that back to the buyer by reducing the sales price. In other words, a lot of times it's the buyer's agent who can use commission to reduce prices and get incentives, not necessarily the seller's agent. So just put that in perspective, you guys. But I definitely think that very little is going to change. But at the very best, what this does is it wakes up more sellers across the U.S. for them to understand, yeah, commission really is negotiable. But what else has this changed? It's so shallow, so shallow. Now she's going to go into what has happened so far this year, and then I'm going to kind of take a look at the data to see if she's accurate. Let's take a listen.
All right. So one of the things I was getting from one of your recent comments, you said that the cost of selling homes will likely go down, but that doesn't mean that the price of those homes will go down.
No.
Distinguish.
No, it's very different. A lot of people are predicting house prices will come down because the seller will pay less of a commission and take that difference and give it to the buyer. Sellers aren't made that way. When the seller lists a home, they want the most money they can get. So they're going to take any savings and put it in their pocket. The cost of housing, I believe, will go up because it has been going up. It's been going up for the last 5 years, despite the dire state of the shortage of houses. So house prices have gone up 6% this year alone. But the real deal is there's not enough houses to go around. There's probably 5 buyers for every house out there.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
All right, let's talk about demand, because I always hear, oh, there's so many people on the sideline. Y'all, I've been in real estate as a professional, actively, like doing a lot of business for over 20 years. I could tell you there's always been people on the sideline. It's always been that way. Most people, they can't afford to get a house. So this whole premise that, oh, there's all these people on the sideline that are going to come off, that's ludicrous. Because if people were forced to the sideline, they're even in a worse situation right now overall because the housing market is more unaffordable. So how could the unqualified or poorly qualified people be coming off of the sidelines when they were forced on the sidelines when rates were at the 5%? Now prices are higher and rates are at the 7%. That doesn't make sense. There has always been buyers on the sideline. The thing that is different here, the inventory is low. And so because the inventory is low, we really haven't been through something like this where we don't even have that much buying demand, but there's enough limited buying demand to keep things propped up. And I'll also say this, inventory, active units. We have the most active units for this time of year. Okay, so we're in March right now in 4 years. So we have a 4-year high of active units for sale. And I'm not even counting new homes. When we count new homes, it's a lot more, but just existing. Now, she claimed houses are up already 6% for the year. Take a look. All right, so this is Redfin median sales price for all Redfin metros, and this is the 4-week rolling average. This is not month over month. This is 4-week rolling. And right now, you guys, according to this data, we're up 5%, not 6%. So she was close, but 5%, and that's year over year. So that's basically saying this time last year, which is the blue line. So this time last year, we were up 5%. But when we look at the start of the year, we're up about 3.8%. So yeah, not 6% since the start, but year over year, almost 6%. But again, you guys, from the start of the year, we are up from 361,000 to 375,000. That equals 3.8%. Very interesting. But regardless, it's inferred that homes are up from January to right now about 6%. But the reality is it's about half that. Now, let's listen to her talk about Austin and why she thinks Austin is going down in value.
There's a comeuppances too. You know, you've had this tour run, certainly in places like Florida. You know, Texas was going fast. I mean,
Austin.
right.
Yes.
But now we hear Austin slowing down. We hear Florida is sort of hit its ceiling. I don't know if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
You famously said not too long ago, say La Vida, Florida. Not quite, but what did you mean by
I didn't
that?
quite say that,
Right.
but I said something similar to that. I said someone was asking me if you could find a great deal in Florida anymore, and I said Florida's over, meaning getting a great deal because prices were still going up, and it is the case. It's very hard to find a house in Florida, so you never get a good deal, really. If you want to get a bargain basement price, that's really what I meant by that.
And it is a very low no tax state when it comes to sales
sure
tax.
is a popular
but their real estate taxes, given the rise of real estate,
They're substantial.
they're very substantial.
People
So
think about
forget
that second. Yeah.
They do. But you weren't necessarily writing off Florida.
Oh no, of course not.
Is there any market that you consider that got way too hot and is still too hot?
Austin is really seeing some bad days right now. Austin, though, you have to appreciate, in the earlier years went up by 60% in
Right.
2 years, and the construction was nonstop. So there's an oversupply of places to buy. So Austin prices are coming down, not by much, by about 8%, but they lead the nation right now.
A couple things that she said. So the first thing is it blew up way too fast. But the other key thing that she said that I agree with is there's a lot of inventory, and that inventory is coming from new homes. But also one thing that kind of hit home is understand, okay, all of these recent property owners, their property taxes right now are skyrocketing. Their homeowners insurance is skyrocketing. And it's not just new home buyers. It's really every person that has owned a home. And that's hurting people on fixed income that are retired. But you guys, I'm going to tell you, I see this all the time in my market. I find multiple properties that are assessed, meaning this is what they're taxed on, for $100,000 or more above market. Above market. Think about that. So they're being taxed on way too much money. So that's blowing up. Homeowners insurance is blowing up. I mean, this stuff is bad, but again, right now, it blew up too much, and they quite frankly have too much new home building in Austin. I agree with her. That's why we're saying Austin lead the nation in price decline, except actually that's changed a little bit. It's now San Antonio, if we just look at year-over-year price decline. But either way, you guys, San Antonio is also in a similar situation. Overwhelming construction. Overwhelming construction. Now, listen to what she has to say about luxury transactions and foreign and cash buyers. Maybe we should figure out a way to stop foreign investors. I'm just going to say it. Can we do something to stop foreign investors in the housing market? I think it might be a good idea. Here's what she has to say about what's going on.
About the really high-end properties, the $100 million condos and penthouses in Manhattan, all that, they seem to be impervious to everything.
They're not impervious. And under the table, there's a lot of good deals being made.
Really?
Some of the trophy properties that are very high floor, very extravagant, there's a lot of money being exchanged off prices. So you can get yourself
Cash,
a
are
decent
they largely
deal.
cash transactions?
Yes, they are always cash transactions. Who knows where the cash comes from, but the cash lands on the
And
table.
a lot of foreign buyers still.
Oh, yes, very much so. But a good number of American buyers, I would say 60% of the very affluent people buying in Manhattan right now are Americans. And that's not usually the case.
You talk about the interest rate environment too, and a lot of people get concerned when they know, all right, Federal Reserve start cutting already, but market rates have actually gone the opposite. They've actually backed up a little bit.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that to people?
I can't explain the rates going up or down. That's not my bailiwick. But what I can explain is if rates go down just another percentage point, that's what I'm hoping for by year end, prices are going to go through the roof. And the
So
reason for
that
that
would be around 6%, get to
Yes.
that level.
because everyone will come out and buy. There are probably 10 buyers on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to come down that are actually active in the market. So everybody's going to charge the market. And so if you wait for interest rates to come down by another point, I don't think you'll gain. I think you'll wind up paying more, because I wouldn't be surprised if real estate went up by another 8 or 10% if interest rates come down another full
Really?
point. I know it sounds crazy, but there's a magic number that makes people get all juicy about.
Yeah.
And it just has to slide down there for everybody to say, let's get out there and take advantage of it.
Okay, so first of all, she's saying foreign investors are coming purchasing luxury property for cash. But also, did y'all hear what she just said? So she's saying real estate, if essentially rates go under 6%, real estate could potentially go up to 6 to 10%. But again, I find that so intriguing considering that real wages are down, savings are down. Pretty much the only reason things are propped up is the job market, which is a lot of government jobs, is deficit spending. I mean, I don't see how people can afford this. I mean, statistically, we need to be making on average 60% more income for this to sustain. So I just, how's it going to go up 10%? Maybe you guys know, comment below. Maybe you think that everything's going to normalize, that we're never going to go into a recession again because they're just going to print us out, right? We were going to just sacrifice the last 100 years of history because the last 2 years are more important than the last 100 years. I don't think so. I think that this time is not different. Well, actually, you know what? I take it back. I do think this time is different. I think it's much worse. And again, when we look at just deficit spending, it is much worse. And when we look at inflation, it is much worse. When we look at the asset bubble, it is much worse. But regardless, let's see what she has to conclude with what happens next in real estate.
We got multiple wars going on now. It's a scary world. I know stocks climb a wall of worry. What does real estate do?
Real estate worries too. Whenever there's uncertainty, people stall. And whenever people stall, it stalls a marketplace. So any kind of uncertainty slows down the market. But despite that, and overriding all of that is the shortage of houses.
Good thing we have more active units than we have in the last 4 years for this time of year. But she's not wrong, you guys. Sentiment. I mean, that's really what's been driving the market on top of the money printing. It's people's emotions. We know maybe there's some. And I'm trying to teach people that if they can't help themselves, they have to buy. Here's some of the fundamentals: wedge, cash flow, right expectations, right plan ahead, be an asset at your company. If you're on the sideline working your credit, your income, your asset, all of these things. But, the market is running on pure, foolish hope right now. You guys, I think, again, a small gust of air is going to blow this whole thing over. She doesn't talk about, actually, none of the bulls talk about PE ratio. They don't talk about payment to income ratio. They don't talk about what were the circumstances? Why have prices gone down in the past? And again, it's not just the GFC. We've had multiple times throughout the US where certain markets have lost massive amounts of equity or price or value in houses. And generally, the reason that is, it's a job market. It's a straight up job market. If they keep injecting government jobs, it's going to continue to stay propped up. But the problem is with all this, guys, I don't think the house market is resilient. I think the bubble's just getting bigger. And the fact that the bubble's getting bigger means the pop is going to be more widespread and is going to be more violent. Now, again, this is just my opinions. Everything's going to be linked in the description. Let me know what you think. You probably have a difference in opinion, and that is perfectly okay. But let's just continue to respect each other. I mean, we're all on the same team, whether you agree with me or not. If you don't work for the Federal Reserve, we're on the same team. And so because we're on the same team, let's love each other and help each other grow. Now, other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you know that I wish you luck. And I hope you win.